Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Ty. I'm going to be talking about the Bitcoin private white paper. The team finally released the much anticipated white paper. I got a chance to read it, made some notes, and did some research over it. This will be my overview of the white paper and opinion on it. I do, however, recommend you definitely read the white paper if you're invested in Z Classic or wanting Bitcoin private. Please do your own research. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. It starts out in the abstract talking about us giving up information and privacy to third parties in order to exchange that information over the internet. These third parties can be compromised and the information can be stolen. What Bitcoin Private does is it eliminates that third party so there's no points of failure of losing the information or our privacy being compromised. It is a low fee, fast, and private transactional network. They say it is a true fulfillment of Satoshi Nakamoto's roadmap. Those of you not familiar, this is not the first Bitcoin fork saying it is the true vision of Satoshi Nakamoto. They say it is 4 to 6 times faster than Bitcoin, and they implement ZK Snarks. So ZK Snarks was implemented on Zcash. It is a way for a sender and receiver to send transactions that are not recorded on the blockchain. So it is anonymous transactions. There will be 20.4 million Bitcoin privates in circulation after the fork, and then a total supply of 21 million. They are saying this is actually the least inflationary coin in existence, but that can be argued because there are some coins that the total supply is already out there. With the introduction, it talks about how previously transactions were anonymous, but since everything is digital, we rely on credit cards, debit cards, so things like Apple Pay, these third parties to do these transactions. And nothing is anonymous, everything is recorded by these third parties. These third parties can sell our data, and they do sell our data. They can block legal transactions. We've seen that with Coinbase, with credit cards and banks stopping transactions from Coinbase. This is our money, and as long as it's a legal manner, we should be able to do what we want with our money. We shouldn't be told what to do with our money. Talks about how Satoshi Nakamoto, his vision was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system with no third parties. There's been over 1,000 different cryptocurrencies. Some of them are faster and they have lower transaction times than Bitcoin. Bitcoin remains the most popular cryptocurrency because it has the first mover advantage and significant base pairs available for trading, meaning Bitcoin is the lifeblood of the system. We use Bitcoin to purchase other cryptocurrencies. I'd argue there's a ton more reasons that Bitcoin is the most popular, such it has a very strong development team. Talks about how Bitcoin has fixed block sizes, a slow block time. Really what miners dominate the industry are ASICs miners because it uses SHA-256. That stands for security hashing algorithm. And so if you're trying to build like a GPU to mine Bitcoin, you can't compete with these ASICs miners. Bitcoin Cash came out with larger block sizes, 8 megabits versus 1 megabits with Bitcoin. Talks about how Bitcoin Gold tried to combat the ASICs miners by using a different algorithm, which penalizes computers that don't have more memory in other ways. And so it is kind of ASICs resistant. It also reduced the block time to 2.5 megabits. So basically, it's kind of comparing, trying to take the best of both worlds, saying, okay, here's what's good about Bitcoin Cash, here's what's good about Bitcoin Gold, and we're going to take the best of these. What they're going to do is they will be ASICs resistance, so they're not using SHA-256. They will have shorter block times, which is 2.5 minutes. And they will also have increased block sizes, so 2 megabits. It goes back into Satoshi Nakamoto's vision about having anonymous transactions and the right to privacy. With machine learning and then Bitfury, it's capable of de-anonymizing up to 15% of the transactions. We saw Coinbase give a whole bunch of records to the IRS. I'm sure they will continue giving records to the IRS. So that number is only going to continue to get larger and larger. Talks about other cryptocurrencies, how they use torrents, and it's not completely anonymous. Nothing was completely anonymous until the creation of ZK Snarks with Zcash. With Zcash, none of the transactions are recorded. And then along with that, you can't see how many coins a wallet has. With a Bitcoin wallet, you can see how many coins that wallet has, which is not very anonymous. And so with ZK Snarks, you will not be able to see how many coins someone has with a wallet address. Also talks about with Zcash, one of the negatives about it is it had a founder's tax. 20% of all the coins mined went to the founders. I didn't agree with that at all. Rhett Creighton, which was one of the developers, he forked it and created Z Classic, which eliminated that founder's tax. It was basically the same coin, but it did not have that founder's tax. Rhett Creighton is also the founder of Bitcoin Private. He's done another coin which is called Whale Coin. It then talks about, okay, what I've talked about earlier. Let's just actually go to this chart and kind of compare the others. All of the Bitcoin forks has a 21 million supply going with Satoshi's vision. None of them are private, and so Bitcoin does have ZK snarks to make it private. The block time 2.5 minutes. Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are 10 minutes, and then Bitcoin Gold came out with the 2.5 minutes. Actually, Litecoin is around 2.5 minutes for the block time. Block size, it's a 2 megabit block size. So they probably, I guess, thought 8 megabits was a little bit extreme because Bitcoin Cash, those blocks, they never even get past 1 megabyte. So 2 megabytes for the block size. And then talking about the Equihash, which is ASICs resistant. It does not use the SHA 256 algorithm. And difficulty adjustment, this is a big thing too. This is one thing I wish Bitcoin did differently, because there are people hopping from pool to pool, and then as the difficulty goes down and goes up with Bitcoin's difficulty adjustment changes every 2016 blocks, I believe. That's about every 2 weeks. And so depending on how many hash power it has, it'll change that. With the difficulty adjustment on this, it's actually adjusted every single block, which Bitcoin Gold did that as well, which Bitcoin Gold did, I think, get that right. Bitcoin Gold did do a large pre-mine, which was, I hate pre-mines, and there's coins back in the day never had a pre-mine. If the coin had a pre-mine, you'd stay away from it because it was a scam, everybody said. But I hate pre-mines. This one does not have a pre-mine. It is very community driven. There's about the fork next and how this fork is Bitcoin and Z Classic. You will get Bitcoin private at a 1-to-1 ratio if you hold Z Classic or Bitcoin during the snapshot. The snapshot is on February 28th. Currently, there are no exchanges supporting the fork. There's a lot of talk about Bittrex possibly supporting the fork. Binance could even announce they're supporting the fork as well. I really hope Bittrex does announce this. If Bittrex does, you can hold the coins there and they will do the fork for you. If they don't announce it or no other exchanges announce it, then you will need to move it over to like the Electrum wallet to benefit from the fork. Or if you don't hold your private keys and you won't benefit from this fork. It talks about how it's not going to download the entire blockchain. It's just going to have the balances of each wallet. So it's going to go from 157 gigabytes to 10 gigabytes at the launch. Now, replay attack it can be a problem with forks, but they have put in a two-way replay protection on both coins in order to prevent a replay attack from it. Again, that snapshot, it talks about the snapshot on February 28th at 5 p.m. And then 2 days later will be when the mainnet launches and the fork happens. So as long as you have the coins during that snapshot, you will be rewarded. You can sell that coins after the snapshot and you will still be rewarded as long as you hold it during the snapshot. You will be rewarded 2 days later during the fork. The first block reward will be 0.78125 Bitcoin private, and then the halving will be 66,000 blocks after that, which would be April in 2018. This is a proof of work coin. This is not proof of stake. It talks about how it's ASICs resistance with that Equihash. Now, 60% of the hashing comes from China, and they say that is a problem because of centralization. And so what they're trying to do is prevent that ASICs. And with Equihash, it penalizes computers that don't have sufficient memory. And that way that GPUs can compete against ASICs miners. Item number 4 is transparent versus shielded transactions. I really like this about Bitcoin Private because you can decide whether you want your transaction to be completely private or you want it recorded on the blockchain. A private transaction is a shielded transaction using ZK snarks, but there's also times that you may want to give to like a charity and you want something recorded. So you have that option whether you want that recorded or you want it completely anonymous. Coins like Monero, those are completely anonymous and nothing is ever recorded on the blockchain. I really like that you are able to decide what you want to do with it. Next is the voluntary miner contribution program. What Bitcoin Private did to raise funds was they went to the Z Classic miners and they said, if you mine Z Classic and give us all that Z Classic, we will reward you with Bitcoin Private. They estimate about 50,000 Z Classic will be given to the Bitcoin Private with this contribution program, and they will reward 62,500 Bitcoin Privates to these miners, meaning they will get 1.25 Bitcoin Private if these numbers are correct for every Z Classic that they mine. Some people can argue that this is kind of like a pre-mine, and then some people can argue that it's not because all the miners voluntarily mined for Bitcoin Private, even though they are rewarded. I think it is important that Bitcoin Private has funds to be able to do things with. What they're going to do with these funds is 50% will be used for exchange listings. We're talking about Bittrex, Binance, and the more exchanges and the bigger exchanges is ultimately going to help this coin grow and increase in value. It really needs to be on big exchanges. 25% will go to pay development and developers. 15% will go to marketing, and then 10% will be general and administrative. These funds are controlled by a Treasury Fund Governance Program, meaning 3 out of 5 people have to agree and sign it with their signature in order to spend any of these funds. 3 of the people will be the contributors, and then 2 of the people will be representatives from the miners. Next, they talk about the future of Bitcoin Private and what they are going to be doing. They talk about how ZK Snarks is very RAM and CPU intensive during the signing. These transaction signings can take a few minutes. So what they're going to be doing is a term called Jub or Jub. I'm not real sure how to pronounce it. And what this is going to do is greatly reduce the transaction times and improve user experience. They also be introducing something called Dandelion, and they don't go into really technical detail of how this works, but it'll be improved privacy with the shielded and unshielded transactions. How they are going to implement these changes is through a soft fork. 95% of the miners have to accept that change in order to implement the soft fork. They will also kind of talk about how they really need continued funding. And so they do not want to have a developer's tax, kind of like how Zcash is doing, but they will give the miners the ability to contribute, a percentage of what is mined. I don't know how many miners are going to actually want their funds to be given to Bitcoin Private, but I'm sure a lot of these miners are very dedicated to the project. So we'll see how many percent of the coins will be actually given to Bitcoin Private. They're going to really heavily rely on donations for this. Next, they talk about how there could be problems because there are so little coins to mine. It could drastically reduce the network hash rate. And a possible solution to this is, I like this solution. I haven't seen this on a fork before. Let me know if you've seen this before. But what they would do is take 0.14% of the unclaimed Bitcoin Private coins, and it would be removed daily over the course of 2 years. There's going to be a ton of unclaimed Bitcoin Private coins. A lot of people have Bitcoin in like Coinbase or in a cold storage, and they just, maybe some of them could care less about Bitcoin Private or they don't know about it. So there is going to be a lot of unclaimed coins, and that will remove these coins. I really like this idea. I think it's a pretty good idea. They talk about how there could be problems with the network hash rate with miners not switching over after the soft fork. So what they would do, they would introduce a difficulty bomb. This was first talked about in Ethereum, and it just reminds anybody mining in the old fork that, hey, you've got to get over to the new fork. They talk about the commercial applications of what they want Bitcoin Private to be. They want vendors to set this up because it's going to be an easier and faster transaction time than Bitcoin. And then also they'll have the option to have it anonymous. So they're really trying to compete with Bitcoin, and then they're also trying to compete with Bitcoin Cash. I think they've got maybe a good chance of beating Bitcoin Cash as far as a higher market cap and then possibly usability. Bitcoin Cash has some big players and a lot of money behind it, So that is something that they are going to have to compete against. They also, along with that, is I think they possibly think they're going to be able to overtake Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer digital cash system. I don't really see that happening, but some people might see that happening. Talks about ZK Snarks, how like Zcash was never really going to be able to be a quick, usable peer-to-peer digital cash system because it takes so long to do that digital signature. The Jub, it's going to fix that. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be able to overtake Bitcoin Cash? Do you think it's going to be able to overtake Bitcoin? I can see a lot of use cases, and I think a lot of people are going to hop onto this. And I can see a lot of vendors setting it up as well, being there is a lot of benefits to a faster transaction time, and then have the ability to have completely anonymous transactions. The community-driven project, they have over 100 contributors currently all over the world. It is really cool because they are accepting applications for more and more contributors, and they want as many contributors as possible. Talking about whether you know how to code blockchain or not, it's okay. They still want you. They want as many people contributing to this as possible. They will, help guide you and teach you through a lot of things, which I really like with this. This is talking about how this is Satoshi's vision. It is going to be a low fee, decentralized private system. It's going to be better than Zcash, Zclassic. It's going to be the best of both worlds, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold. ASICs resistance, larger blocks, shorter block times, and that's basically it. So that's the white paper. Again, I encourage you definitely to read the white paper. My opinion on the white paper, if I were to give it a grade from a 1 to 10, I would give it a 6.5 to a 7. I think they could have made it a little more lengthy, a little more descriptive. I wish I would have seen a roadmap. They said that they're going to come out with Jub and Dandelion technology. When do they plan on coming out with this technology? And I just wish there was more description. Some graphics always goes a long way in white paper. It's always nice to see that. There were some grammatical errors. There were a few. And with a white paper and a project this size, there should never be any grammatical errors at all. This thing should be proofread 10, 15 times. What do you think about the white paper? Did you like it? And what do you think the positives and negatives are? Let's take a look at the price since the white paper came out. The price pumped just a little bit right before the white paper came out, which I don't really like seeing, but it's not really sketchy because it didn't pump a whole lot. As soon as the white paper came out, it did dump a decent amount. This is no surprise at all. With stocks or cryptocurrency, people buy the rumor and sell the news. The price is already loaded into that. People knew the white paper was going to come out. This was no surprise. It would have to be a perfect, like insanely good white paper for the price to go up considerably after it came out. This was not a surprise at all. It's starting to come back up. I do expect it to come back up, 180 to 190 tomorrow. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to stay down very long. What's going to really set this price up is going to be a Bittrex or Binance announcement. I think Bittrex, there is a good chance they're going to announce that because that's not really buying the rumor. People don't know if Bittrex are going to announce they're going to support the fork. That's what's going to really help the price before the fork if Bittrex or Binance announces they're going to support the fork. Now, where do I see the price going to be before the fork, or what is an all-time high? I think the best thing to look at is Bitcoin Gold in order to look at where the price might be. Currently, Bitcoin Gold is $140, and in my opinion, I'm sorry if you like Bitcoin Gold, but I think it's a piece of crap. It was a huge pre-mine, and nobody uses it. Nobody talks about it. They didn't have much marketing. I think it's just crap. So I'm sorry if you like it, but we can look at Bitcoin Gold. I think it can easily be double Bitcoin Gold, but you got to realize that does have a higher circulating supply, so we're going to factor that into it. If the market cap with Bitcoin private hits 4 billion, which is less than double a Bitcoin Gold, which I think that's very achievable and very easy. I don't know why it wouldn't be 4 billion considering Bitcoin Gold is 2.3 billion and there's not much to Bitcoin Gold. But if the market cap was 4 billion, then that would make it $200 a coin, about $200 a coin. So it depends where you can see this. If you think it's only double going to be Bitcoin Gold, which is going to be $200, and keep in mind, people are buying Z Classic in anticipation of having the Bitcoin private. Nobody really is buying Z Classic to have Z Classic at this price. The price is baked in because people are anticipating getting the Bitcoin private. What do you think? I think this could easily have a 3 to 4 times market cap of Bitcoin Gold. It could easily be $300 to $400 a coin before the fork, and then long term, it could get to $500 to $600. I think it. I hate doing prices, but I know everybody likes saying prices, and you got to look at the market cap of this, and then I think comparing it to Bitcoin Gold would be the easiest way to do that. If it had the same market cap of Bitcoin Cash, then we'd be looking at around $1,200, $1,300 a coin. So it just depends whether you think it's going to compete against Bitcoin Cash or not. What do you think? What do you think of the white paper? I'd love for you to let me know in the comment section. I always try and get back to comments. Also, please subscribe. I try and do as many videos as I can. And if I got anything incorrect, please let me know as well. Thank you.